Sounds like Liquid's trying to impersonate me on the Blunt Force Gamers podcast. Now I know how Master Miller felt. If he was alive.
Welcome back. It is I, your host. You know me by now, probably, maybe, sort of. Game-Goblin. Sitting with the crew.
Darth, Blasphemous. Hail to the dark side.
The Moniker, no longer suffering blessings of Nurgle.
And Kazurkan, the Lord Dragon.
And we're back for another gaming podcast. This week we've actually got us a couple suggestions.
Ooh, fan suggestions? We're making progress?
Not just fan, well, we're noticed also. Yeah, progress.
Senpai noticed us.
Woohoo! Fitting!
I was checking on the internet too, and speaking of fans, the website, I have no clue on how we got there. We have one subscriber. And one is better than zero, but whoever that dude is, they're fucking cool.
Well, let's give him a quick shout out to our mystery subscriber on that one platform.
Yeah, that one platform. I was just like searching, just randomly, just bullshit, doing admin stuff. Pod Drop or Podbox, some off the wall site I've never even heard of, and I'm like, what the hell? How are we here? And yeah, mystery. So shout out to that one subscriber because you're awesome.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah!
Fuck yeah! So our suggestions come from Wild Iron. It's a goofy-ass name. He plays Raid Shadow Grinding, the eternal grind game on mobile phones. He came up with a really good one, which was how different genres kind of appeal to different groups psychologically. So we've got that one, and we've also got a guy on, because I do a lot of platforms here, of course. I was doing
Star Wars?
Star Wars! See, I do a lot of platforms.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yeah, he's up. So shout out to Sun for suggesting miniatures in gaming. So these two kind of bridge together in their own right, so we're going to do a double episode of our suggestions.
Right on.
Oh.
Someone said miniatures. I'm going to go into conniptions here.
So yeah, let's roll that intro so we can get into it.
Right on. Pressing the button. Feeling tired at the gaming table? Want to hear foul-mouthed jackasses poke fun at gaming companies when they screw up? Want an honest, street-level opinion from a team of gamers that call it like it is? Then Blunt Force Gamers may be the podcast for you.
Listener discretion advised.
So, we're talking how different genres appeal to different groups. I think we should really start with the origin of all this, of why we do games in general. It's a form of escapism, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Power fantasy.
That's another version.
Exploring new things a lot of the times. In my case, it tends to be more lore-based, but...
It's getting to live a, epic, adventurous fantasy life vicariously.
Exactly. I mean, I really enjoy the world building, so I like the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Sure.
But when it comes to character creation, I love just helping people to live their best pretend life.
Yeah.
One of those things of someone sort of like, well, I want to be a monk and do all this really cool shit, but have this awesome mohawk. I'm like, all right, you don't got to be bald, bro. It's all good.
Psst! Occidental.
Can't be an elf.
Can't
I'm
be
an elf.
For me, I like the world building mostly, especially with the later iterations in the horror fantasy genre. When you get survival horror, you build your own base and it's yours.
Yeah.
It's like your castle of doom. And I was playing a game a while back, and I wish they had continued it and not abandoned it. But you can build like a shitload of turrets, and when the alien invasion came, there I am sitting on my throne of power, sipping a nest tea, and I'm like, come on, alien scum. I have 228 Gatling guns pointed at your mothership. What you gonna do?
Modaka.
But that's definitely an important thing. Like, you can tell when you go to a game shop and you're looking for a group, or you're looking at people who are like, yeah, I'm interested in playing, or they're looking at the books or the minis. Who gravitates to what? Like, you definitely have people who are more of the high fantasy style, right?
I'm one of those.
I think most of us are.
Yeah, pretty much.
Crom!
But, we're usually heavy lore-based, world-based. So that's usually where you can strike a conversation up, is what's the world like? Those interesting, finite details are a big part of why the high fantasy realms attract a lot of us. And that's where a lot of people start. D&D is set in high fantasy realms.
Mm-hmm.
Sometime.
Yeah. Because we are treading psychology in this episode.
Cognitive dissonance.
Thank you, yeah.
I had to get that out of the way.
Yeah, anyone who brings up cognitive dissonance, you lose this episode.
The game, I have lost.
It's Moniker's Law.
Moniker's
We had Murphy's
Law.
Law, now we've got Moniker's Law.
I'm sorry, I just firmly believe that anyone who ever brings up cognitive dissonance in any sort of anything ever, who doesn't hold a psychology degree, you took one summer quarter of a psychology 101.
Or they just read an article on fucking...
Sigmund Freud or some shit, yeah. That being said, the Moniker did take one summer course of Psychology 101.
At least he admits it.
Yeah, I'm self-aware, or at least I try and be.
You know, Moniker, tell us about the worlds that really attract you, because you are our 40k expert on so what attracted you, and what do you say is the group you hail from?
I guess with me in gaming, it really goes back to high school. You guys remember Brony, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so him and I would hang out a lot in high school. And, we were kind of, the band geeks, your stereotypical nerds, we sat outside by, the back of one of the English buildings or whatever. That's where the MTG crowd was. But then with 40K, how I got into that was actually, Brony, all those years ago, he was actually into it, and I thought it looked cool. I thought it just looked like a more hardcore Star Wars. And
well, everyone wants to pretend to be the best.
Yeah, exactly. But, so I guess what initially got me in was, the Space Marines. Of course, like with Star Wars, it was borrowed from a lot of traditional storytelling and mythology and stuff, but it's really its own setting. What I liked about Warhammer, and especially the Space Marines, was how much they still kind of blatantly had, I guess, the different cultures that inspired them. You have the Ultramarines, which are Space Romans, Robute Gilliman is Space Caesar, shit like that. That's what attracted me to it. And then the more I started reading up on it and seeing all the different races and stuff, you got the Necrons, which are Egyptian Terminators.
Orcs!
Yeah, and what was funny is before I really got into 40k, as everyone knows, I love orcs in any sort of medium. But then I was also really big into the Mad Max films. So when I saw the 40k orcs, that they were pretty much just Mad Max orcs in space, dude, I was sold. So I think maybe in my mindset, I kind of wish to be, some post-apocalyptic warlord, just wearing spiked-out shoulder pads and shit, getting to scream at everyone. So maybe that's my mindset, deep down.
Likely. And Kaz, you are our second eldest DM here, and you've played a lot of different versions, like D&D Modern, 10 feet.
Yes. That wasn't exactly a very well thought-out rule on their part.
But you come in from a totally... Well, it's tangential field of groups, because we all grew up differently, separate. We weren't really hanging out in high school because you were too old. I was in another state.
I was a dropout. Hanging out in high school? Fuck you, I already had a job.
But yeah, with that, tell us a bit about the gaming that got you into it and what group you say you hail from.
So, I guess this is a bit of a weird one for me because I got into gaming because of my father. One of my favorite pastimes as a kid was just to sit there while my dad was playing video games, watch over his shoulder. I was a weird kid, but it led to me kind of getting a deeper understanding of gaming from very early on. My mother will swear up and down that cribbage taught me math skills, and the Pokemon trading card game taught me how to read better. I have learned most everything from gaming in some way, shape, or form. So I am very much a product of gaming.
So you're a generational gamer.
You're a legacy gamer.
Yeah.
But, we're not typically talking the old school platforms. My dad started, he was playing computer games. So this sets the era that we're talking here. Yeah. Goblin's got stories about the NES and, all the properly classic consoles. My first experiences were a PC, an Xbox, and a handheld Game Boy. And I remember very pointedly that my Game Boy, not even a Game Boy Color, but my dad was like, that thing that you hold in your hand has more computing power than the computer that sent a man to the moon. And it's true. It really is true.
So from there, you getting into gaming, what genre was it that you initially latched on to and were like, yeah, this is my shit? Because we've got an idea of your background. Let's see where it led you.
It led me a little bit into high fantasy, but I'll also splash into science fiction or anything that's not set to realism.
General fantasy.
Yeah, general fantasy. So that means my big story mark is StarCraft. That is a 20-year story, and it is goddamn amazing. There's many high fantasy. It's generally more where I go. I tend to play a lot more first-person shooters and puzzle games these days, and RTS.
Well, it's because the big game developers have fell on their face, and now we're left to the side. It's like, all right, this is kind of just fun for now. But I see you when we play games together, is when it comes to the gaming, you get really into all the details and a lot of just the mechanics of how the worlds work. And I find it very interesting that you come from a background where it's like classic gaming to new gaming, big leap. You missed the middle ground. It's all good. We mostly did. But that's... So when you say your game style, for video games wise, is just shooters and puzzles lately. But what about your tabletop? Like
if I'm playing tabletop, I very much prefer high fantasy. And if I can, like Goblin and like yourself, I want to make that world feel alive. Feel like everything has a meaning, a purpose, even if that purpose is there is no purpose. But like Goblin and I have talked in a previous episode about making magic feel part of your world. And that's a big thing of it, is how do you make the world come to life?
Alright, so we definitely have a really good grasp on at least two different aspects of where you got people who were outsiders who came in, legacies who were brought up through it. But before we get to Elder Gamer, I'd like to chime in.
Before I get into one of my long-winded stories of back in my day when my knee was swelling up, you knew a high score was coming.
You damned kids!
Get off my lawn!
You have no idea how many cars I watched to get all the freaking coins to play Pac-Man. But anyways.
Frogger, motherfucker.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Frogger makes sense.
Frogger.
So my background, top kick.
Kick.
But for me, it was my uncles. Like I kind of come from that legacy bit, but they walked me through from original Nintendo, Atari, and walked me through every generation of game system because they either had it or they knew someone who did, and we would go and play it. And I just worked my way up that way through the whole lineage. And then comic books were a big one. So I love the power story of someone who has this great gift or ability, and they have to use it for right or for ill, depending on what they want to do. And that's the stuff where I love character creation. I'm all about the characters of it and how they make sense, backgrounds, do they use their power to its full extent? Do they restrain themselves? That's where I really get into it. So I've played from my first true interaction with gaming, which was our World of Darkness campaign, definitely in the horror genre. I liked it, but you guys can tell my character was a little not completely fitting in the world.
Yes and no. He was adapting very slowly to his changes.
Yeah, and that's definitely part of it where I'm a character's influence, because I also try writing. I'm very bad at English. It's my only language, but hey. So that's where a lot of my stuff comes from. As soon as I got into Pathfinder, when we chose to do that, I started learning all the character building stuff and all the cool things you can be like, all right, this guy has like all these cool stats and do all this damage, but let me play the character. Let me be a thespian again, play something I'm not. And that's what gets me into the escapism of that. And I come from definitely a semi-legacy background of it, but I was definitely the outsider once my uncles left. So I'm kind of bridging the gap between that.
Alright, so right now we have the outsider, the legacy, and the hybrid, with the ancient to follow.
Yes, so let's see what Elder Gamer has to say here.
As I dust myself off from my tomb of horrors and come forth onto the microphone, I shall tell you a tale of one angry goblin.
The whole time you were saying that, I just had, the Dragonborn theme building up in the background of my head.
I was kind of hoping you would follow that by going, not by the hair on my chinny chin chin.
Oh my god. I still have that cassette.
I just watched a video the other day. It's awesome. But anyway, going along about how different genres appeal to different psychological mindsets and everything, as per the suggestion by WildIron, I've sampled a little bit of everything over the years. I started out as a video gamer. My first system was an Atari 2600. Yes, and when I got angry, you could just whale one of those cartridges across a room. No problem. And the controllers back then were... fuck all. It was a brick with a stick.
Brick stick?
Like, one time I got pissed and I Irish bullwhipped my controller off the table and broke the table.
Nice. Yeah,
that's how sturdy those controllers were. So, back then, gaming was really simple. You either had side-scrollers, you really didn't have that 2.5D view, there was no such thing as 3D at all, in any shape, way, or form. And when I moved on from that, I moved into PC gaming, which, of course, PC Master Race was vastly superior.
Oh my god, I just had a vision of you with hair.
Yeah, yes, I actually did have hair back then.
Wow.
And the hair down below wasn't gray yet either. It's like every time I pluck a pube, I gain 5 years back on my NADSAC.
You are old.
I'm old. I admit it. Anyway, when I got on the PC, I found that there was a lot more different things you could do. Like, the games were much more robust. You had the point and clickers like Myst. You had Wolfenstein, the original.
All those old Sierra games.
All the old Sierra games.
LucasArts.
The original Doom games. You had... one of the things that was really awesome was you had the capacity to actually break into the game's coding, and if it wasn't written in some sort of fucked up weird code you needed to take a college class for...
As long as it wasn't in Cyrillic?
Yeah, as long as it wasn't like in Cyrillic plus ASCII code, C++ all at the same time, you could get inside of it and modify shit. And this is when I first learned, and before it became a hot issue, that gaming can be used as a form of therapy. Because all the guys back at school that I hated the most, I could change all the monsters' names in the dungeons to their names. And just walk through with a plus 9,000 holy mace and just waylay all these motherfuckers. Which was, in retrospect, a lot more safer than going through with a plus 9,000 whomping stick in school and waylay motherfuckers.
Right?
So I learned that from PC gaming. It's right.
I've done that too. Not necessarily with names, but like on particularly bad days, boot up Serious Sam. Go fucking ham.
Yeah, it was like when Mortal Kombat came out, the first system I legitimately purchased with my own blood, sweat, tears, hard work. I hoarded out my government subsidies for a summer to people who wanted free shit at a reasonable discount, and managed to procure $180 over the course of the summer. Bought myself a SNES.
Mm-hmm.
The SNES.
The SNES, and Mortal Kombat, if I squinted ever so slightly, Liu Kang looked like my brother-in-law. So there was nothing like just ripping his heart out over and over and over and over, because to say I hate this dude is really light. And it was during that course of time, during that summer, when I was going between PC gaming and console gaming, that I learned from my own experiences that gaming can be used as a form of just get your aggression out. It's basically a butt bag.
Yeah.
You know, in the backyard, you just go out and punch a duffel bag filled with clothes. But in this case, I'm in my living room with a controller working out those frustrations instead. And later on, it became kind of a hot topic. It actually started cropping up in the news, you know, oh, gamers are like excessively violent. And then studies come out and say, no, actually they work this shit out at home. And I'm like, I knew this before you did the report. And different genres appeal to different groups, much like they did to me. And for me, it was a form of therapy in its own way and saving everybody else's life. On the other hand, you have real-time strategy guys and guys who like shooters. These guys are looking for the quick fix. Yeah. They want to get in there. They want some action-packed fun. They're living that 1980s action movie feeling. You know, they get in there and just like start spraying bullets everywhere. They're like, I am the new Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Screw you, I've got Cortana. So you're looking at those guys with the shooters. They want the quick fix. Then you got like the history buffs. You got the guys who are mentalists who want to learn more, and they're playing games like Civ Rev
or Age of Empires or Crusader Kings.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
That's the best menus games I've ever played.
You've also got the puzzle guys who are trying to learn. You know, they're also mentalists in their own ways. They're trying to flex their mental muscles by playing puzzle games. You've got the people who want a real challenge and play like roguelike games or side scrollers that are insanely hard.
Yeah.
And these guys, you know, a lot of cred to them because their reflexes are just screaming crazy.
Yeah, like that's the other big benefit that gaming has been shown time and time and time and time again, is gamers have better, faster decision-making skills when compared against people who don't play video games faced with those same topics.
Well, it's just like the whole thing about you can put D&D on your resume and be like, yeah, I meet up with a group regularly to go through hypothetical problem solving, and it's a legit thing where literally that's what we do when we game, when we get together.
Yeah.
And for me, it really helped me, the gaming in general, because you guys remember when you first met me, I was awkward as fuck. And gaming has helped me to socialize.
Well,
it's helped me to understand how different appearances, either through my character or through whatever I'm doing in-game, has helped me open up my social acumen and throw a couple extra ranks in there, you know?
Well, it's also like how big a GM, you know, if you were actually be able to get away with writing D&D on a resume, which I'm not sure if you can do that nowadays. When I started working, no, you couldn't.
You still can't unless you're doing something that's specific to the gaming industry.
Well, it's all in how you word it. Because saying I meet up with a group of people to run hypothetical problem solving, that's total legit.
Oh, that's right.
garbage.
Flowery words. You know, we run.
Yeah, you have to business it up.
Exactly.
You business it up, and then you just quietly not mention the fact that a lot of that problem solving involves a 1d8 weapon.
True.
Well, yeah, going back on how gaming, helps people out, with the hand-eye coordination, memory skills. It's great for the elderly. They did tests with the original Game Boy. They tested Game Boys with old people playing Tetris, and they noticed that people were normally who were living very sedentary lives playing really slow-ass games like checkers. We're getting their thought processes were moving faster.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys remember hearing them several years ago about that lady who was like in her 70s or 80s, and she would like stream Skyrim.
Oh, yeah. Skyrim Grandma.
Skyrim Grandma, yeah,
great. Grandma was great.
Yeah,
actually, she just went down to, and I hate Bethesda, but at the same time, they do shit like this. It makes me still have some hope. They brought her in for the new Elder Scrolls game, and they scanned her in.
Oh, really?
Nice. Yeah, they scanned her in as
her face is going to be immortalized into the next game.
Yeah.
I do like it when gaming companies do that.
Remember when gaming companies used to do that? Or Magic the Gathering, if you were like the champion of the year, they made a card and they were just like, alright, we're going to put your likeness in the card.
Yeah. No.
Rewards. They work.
Let's see. Gearbox does this. There are 5 or 6 different references that you can find just in Borderlands 2 and will be 3 that are in relation to people who were big enough fans, wrote them up and be like, look, I don't think, I really want to play this before I kick the bucket. I'm not expecting to live up until or much past the point that you're going to release the game.
Well, it's taking them so fucking long to get around to making the next game.
Yes, that too.
And they're playing the George card on that one.
What's the George card?
The Martine?
No, George Lucas.
Oh.
When it came to doing the prequel trilogies, he was like, the technology doesn't exist yet. So he kept pushing it off. And then finally, when the technology existed, it all looked like plastic and rubber. So, yeah, but that's just like, technology's not advanced enough to make the game that we want.
That's nice.
That's great.
Then make it.
But most of the people who started on Skyrim now are starting to graduate from high school or already have jobs and families or are in the military. I realize you guys have other projects and shit, but come on. This is your job. Do it. Do it now.
Kind of like the George R.R. Martin. How long did it take him to move from one book to the next? And we're still waiting on the last?
Yeah, now he's flip-flopping on that. But gaming genres, they definitely do appeal to different psychologies. As we have here, we got 4 different players from 4 different backgrounds. We all have a different psychological profile. And different games appeal to each one of us in a different manner. Like, I burnt out on shooters back when GoldenEye was king. This was the N64 era. GoldenEye was king. Doom had just come out with a new game. Turok had just come out. Like, this was the summer of shooters. You could not turn around without seeing a new shooter hit the fucking deal.
What about Half-Life? Or was that a little later?
This was around
Half-Life is a story game.
Oh, yeah, but
Half-Life is a story game, and no one can tell me otherwise.
No, I know it's a story game primarily. I mean, Half-Life definitely has one of the greatest narratives in gaming, but, I mean, gameplay-wise, it's still first-person shooter.
Alright, so back on our topic here. I love the tangent, though. Not trying to stop it. But,
no, that's fair.
So we know where we're coming from and what we like. And we've given them some examples of the background we had. Now, let's just take some of the different game genres and run with it. Horror games. Number 1, a lot of people love them. They're one of the bigger things. Vampire the Masquerade is arguably the best horror role-playing system.
There are a lot of them out there.
Actually, I would go... I hate the game, but I have to give props to Call of Cthulhu.
Okay, so let's take it from there. What kind of people do we meet in game shops or online normally gravitate towards those, and why do we think or know that they like them?
Creepy-ass motherfuckers who binge-watch Friday the 13th and Hostel movies.
Yeah.
That's the usual. People who are obsessed with horror movies all summer long when they come out, because apparently horror movies don't do well when they come out during Halloween.
You know what? I honestly think that's because people just watch the older ones during Halloween season.
Yeah, it's traditional. Like, I have to watch Nightmare Before Christmas, both Halloween and on Christmas.
I just have to watch the Daily News.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't handle that much scary, bro.
If I want to be scared and just like have a sleepless night, I'll just turn on the 6 o'clock news.
Yeah,
they've got plenty of horror stories for me.
I think for me, like my big tradition, it's not Christmas until I see Hans Gruber fall out of Nakatomi Plaza.
That is a Christmas movie. I don't care what anyone else says. It is the best Christmas movie.
Damn Skippy. Anyway, but back to gaming.
What did Skippy do?
Fuck Skippy, dude.
Why did you damn him?
Dude, he's a jerk. Have you talked to him recently?
Not really.
Yeah, fuck
You
that
know,
guy.
he tried putting out those snack bars, and they were terrible. His peanut butter tastes like chemicals.
Exactly.
Wait, everything's chemicals.
Oh yeah, well, Skippy was Hawaiian, I think, and, he was all like, Aloha snack bar.
Real quick, we all need to say, fuck you, Skippy, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Fuck you, Skippy!
There we go.
So yeah, definitely with horror, we definitely find people who like that thrill, and I think they definitely are going after that adrenaline rush of the scare.
Yeah.
Same thing in gaming, when you're playing a game like Dead Space,
Oh,
you're
God,
constantly on the edge of your seat, and I remember I knew that the fucking dog was going to be coming through the window when I was playing the first Resident Evil, and it still got me, because you're sitting there, your heart is like in your throat, you're like, any minute, something bad could happen. Dead Space is just like the same way. You're sitting there and you're like, the fuck.
Dude, that is why still in video games, I don't care if they're corpses, I still stab or shoot them all the time.
Did you guys ever play Alien Isolation?
No.
I never did.
That was a creepy one because I think it does, in that game, the things that a lot of big horror movies shouldn't do is there is no cutscene intro to the Xenomorph. You're just going through the hallways on, whatever sort of mining ship or alien-esque ship, with the old CRT monitors just kind of flickering. You're just going, then, boom, Xenomorph right from the ceiling in front of you. No preamble. No preamble at all. Just walking down, Xenomorph, hide.
Yeah, that's a holy shit. There was one I was playing. It was Aliens versus Space Marines, I believe. This was...
Wait, was that not console,
Colonial Marine?
No, this was back on the Jaguar.
Oh, the Jag days. Yeah, they did
Jag
have
days.
a console, the big box.
Yeah, a guy I know, he had a quasi VR setup, and it had the chest thing you wore with speakers in it. And holy fuck, dude! For being ready to piss myself at any moment, that did it. Because I didn't realize that because we were watching it on the monitor while other people were playing in VR. And watching on the monitor, you didn't get the full experience. But when you're wearing the chest pack, there's a low resonant hum that goes through it with a slow beat. And so, after a while, your own heartbeat starts to go in time with it. So it's all beating at the same time. It's just this low resonant bum 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 bum, and it gets you in the back of the psychology, in the back of the head. Psychologically, you're not thinking about it because you're surrounded by xenomorphs. But when one finally does come and the beeping stops, and you're like, did my heart stop?
Yeah.
No, it didn't. It's okay. So the horror games, they appeal to the psychology, that people who want to be on edge, they get that real quick serotonin rush when something does happen, and then the dopamine hit afterwards.
Yeah.
That feeling of relief afterwards, it's
Adrenaline
gonna be
junkies.
okay. Basically, yeah, it's a bit of an adrenaline.
Full adrenaline junkies.
And then going from there, with horror, it always seems to run into the sci-fi realm, because that's some of the best horror, is space stuff, because there is so much unknown. It's not like, it's at the edge of the world or at the bottom of the sea. No, this is just what happens in this world.
Excuse me. BioShock. Continue.
Oh, God, yeah.
In space.
The first one was good, second one was alright, third one was garbage.
Actually, there's a mobile VR game that I know I don't do much in the way of mobile, and I trash on it often, as it deservedly requires. But there is a mobile horror game that's great, and they were showing footage of somebody playing it. So they take their phone, they put it in VR mode, and it scans the location that you're in. So before you play, you have to walk through the house with your phone up, and it basically scans the building that you're in. So they went to an abandoned store. It was 2 stories tall, an abandoned store with a bathroom, the front area for sales and all that. So for security reasons, because they don't want to scan their own home, because I can see why, they scanned this abandoned location, then they had somebody put the VR headset on, and they're walking through the store. And, the amount of times they panicked, it was a supernatural game, but, ghosts would just pop out of nowhere and shit.
Oh, that's cool.
And when you got the headset on, you would hear things down the hall, because it already has the game scanned, so it basically randomly designates by the RNG that this room has a haunted apparition in it. And so down the hall, you could barely hear a haunted wail, and as you walk down the hall, you could hear it get louder and louder.
Oh, that's really cool.
So that was pretty
trippy.
trippy, yeah.
On the topic of sci-fi, though, the people who usually are into that super high technology-based sci-fi, the ships that go faster than light, I always find it to be the people who are super, tech-savvy. Think about how much Star Wars and Star Trek has influenced real life in the stuff we try to achieve.
Yeah, that's true.
Sliding doors.
The tablet, the home computer.
Touch screens.
The people I know who are into sci-fi, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of tech-savvy ones, but most of what I see is They're more just kind of like, they have that real deep sense of just wanting to, travel, and they just like the idea of the unknown is what I
Exactly.
is what I
Yeah,
find.
you know
They're
what?
the modern day adventurer.
Yeah,
We all have that urge to explore. So, and with today's modern society, it's kind of hard to keep going west. We already know it's over there. So when you got space, you don't know what's beyond the next.
We don't know what's beyond our atmosphere, really.
We don't even know what's in our oceans fully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why games like Subnautica work.
Oh yeah, fuck Reaper Leviathans.
Wait, what about Echo?
Which one?
Echo?
Oh man, I didn't
You play the
Echo.
dolphin? Get into those end levels where the aliens pop in? That was sweet.
My favorite horror is Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, we'll get to them. But
Jump scares, cheap thrills.
But like the sci-fi, because you have how many different Star Wars games out there people love? There's Star Trek mobile games people are fucking all into, and oh my god, I tried. I was in for about an hour and then deleted the app because I was like, holy crap, I can't handle this, and it kills my battery.
I liked Star Trek Online for a while, but it did not hold up to the full potential of being a Star Trek title. The only exploration you did really didn't feel like exploration. It got old and grindy quick.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is like, there's only so much that our creativity can actually put forth to the worlds.
And then we go to the tabletop realm where we can go bug nuts with our imagination. I mean, I have over there almost the complete Star Wars RPG game.
One of
In
several.
books. Yeah, but one of the primaries, the one that's still being published. And in there, a lot of people I see who love playing that want to play heroes like they do in high fantasy. They're tired of running into, like dragons and liches and stuff. They're one more like, we need to undo this fucking code shit to get the droids to stop assassinating this, everyone on this planet. I've seen games like that go on, and it's rather interesting where there are a lot of more problem solvers in the realm of that.
It's a different band of cerebellum.
Yeah.
And also, I resent the fact that you are making quotes against dragons.
I love dragons, sir. You know this.
I know this. I'm going to state it for the record anyway.
I think what's cool about, especially like what I like more in sci-fi, fantasy going back, it's usually like the issues, while there are, of course the fantasy elements, dragons and evil sorcerers and all that stuff, which is great. But I find a lot more in sci-fi because of the high presence of technology. The issues that are faced are a lot more, I guess you could say, modern. Like a kind of more Blade Runner stuff, kind of more that it's more gray area with sci-fi, I think personally, Whereas when you see fantasy, it's much more, there's the evil sorcerer or, the dragon's horde. That's the antagonist, where it's...
Really? Because I thought in role-playing with fantasy, the antagonist was the player characters.
No, it's the other player characters besides yourself.
Ah.
Yeah.
I mean, that too. And we'll not get into that, because I'm sure we'll touch on it later. Now, here's another curveball. Sci-fantasy.
That's a fun one. We've got, what is it, Starfinder?
Yeah, Starfinder is definitely getting there.
Those are for the people who like to have a salad bar.
Now, what's sci-fantasy?
Sci-fantasy is science fiction fantasy having a baby.
Oh,
Goblins in space, bro. Act legit goblins. Not, alien race that are somewhat like goblins.
No, they're straight up goblins.
Back in my day, we called it Spelljammer!
There you go.
Does steampunk fall in that category? Or
No.
Steampunk is kind of its own
own.
category.
It is evolved enough to be its own.
It's on the low-tech end of it.
Yeah, steampunk is just... Sorry.
It is the low-tech end of
It's a stepping stone between fantasy and tech, because there's usually a lot of that.
You had to say steampunk, and now my medulla oblongata is like seizing up.
it.
Or is it just that you got so many teeth and no toothbrush?
Yeah.
No, there's actually, he said steampunk, and I suddenly just, that long groan that I just let out was my medulla oblongata just,
Venting.
Crying.
I felt all the moisture just pulled out of it, and it turned into a raisin still attached to my cerebellum.
When I think of steampunk, I think of pretentious pricks and people who still like to collect Nerf guns.
That is definitely what it's become, but it started with a lot of people who look, at least from my understanding, look back into the past, so they were more of the history buffs, and saw that Steam age, and wanted to expand upon that. Those are the people I at least knew back when I first heard about it.
Yeah.
Then you go to cons, or you hang out with people at certain shops, and yeah, they're the pretentious people.
They'll have that one Nerf gun with all the brass and copper paint and the little cogs and shit on it.
Because it's cheap.
Yeah, and nothing against
God.
most steampunk people, I know.
I went to
Steampunk
Goodwill
is
last
interesting
night.
if it's done right.
No, it's like I think a good one for that is, did you guys ever play Bloodborne? That's a little steampunky, but that one is like steampunk meets, cosmic horror and gothic horror. It's a really lovely little blend. It was made by the Dark Souls people. But, you'll have one of the weapons, I think it's actually just straight up called Tinnitus, and it looks like an old school lightning rod, and you can just beat someone with a lightning rod.
So here's the great fall of the steampunk groups. I was at Goodwill recently. They had this very lovely clock. It wasn't so much a grandfather clock. It was like maybe a dad clock. It was table size, but it was big. And these two teenagers are talking about it. And I'm like, oh man, that thing's really cool. Only $30. I'm totally gonna buy that if I had the room. They're like, oh well, we just want it for the parts. And I'm like, what? This thing is operational and it actually runs off the chains. And what the hell? No, steampunk people just want to take shit apart for the cogs, wheels, and all that. And I was like, just buy them online.
Found there, boss? You found you some looters.
Yeah, and it bugs me.
Yeah.
A properly made clock should not be stripped for parts unless you're putting together another, much better clock.
Note to self, bring clock home, take it apart,
You
throw everything away.
Also,
I will murder your tiny ass.
Can we leave Nikola Tesla alone just for 5 minutes in steampunk, though?
Ooh, fun thing.
Like, please. Yeah. I mean, he's a cool guy. He discovered, what was it, alternating current?
AC.
Yeah, he discovered alternating current, but...
Okay, real quick, fun fact. Listening to a podcast with actual scientists talking about him, they're like, yeah, if he would have got his whole free energy thing going, we would not have any of the technology we have today, because that much power freely floating in the air would destroy any microprocessor we try to make. I'll take the guy who steals patents all day, bro.
Neither here nor there. Another interesting sci-fantasy. It's science fiction pseudo-horror first-person game called Deep Rock Galactic, and it's really fun. You play as a space dwarf, working underneath a company called Deep Rock Galactic, who now owns the planet Hox's, I think it's 9, IX.
So you get to play as Peter Dinklage.
But the thing is, it is high-tech, yet there are some of the quips from the characters that you play. Watch where you're shooting, you pointy-eared leaf lover! There's there's plenty of shade to go around, alluding to other fantasy races. I'm like...
What? This is not the first time you brought up somebody insulting another person in Dwarven. And should I find it again, I will bring out my Dwarven insult generator just for you.
I have pictures of that.
You tool-dropping, anvil-smashing thumb basher.
Yes.
Suit-bearded elf kisser.
Hey, I got one. I think if we go to card gaming and any sort of card gaming or war gaming that involves miniatures, I think that appeals to people with OCD.
A little bit.
And I would know because I actually have OCD.
I think it's more to people who have the gambling rush, because I'm fighting that myself. I basically quit card gaming, but I did buy some cards this week. Just saying.
He's off the boat.
He fell off the wagon.
But it was a big thing when I first started getting into Magic, is I was like, man, I just bought this box and opened all stuff, and I want to go get more so I can try and get these cards. And my buddy's like, yeah, you need to not do that, because that's gambling. That's what you're doing. You're going out and buying a chance at something, and then you're ripping through it. And when the boxes back then were only $100, now you're looking at $120, $300 for currently printed sets that are special edition, limited print run, what have you. But that's what it is. A lot of the people who love the card gaming, if they buy just boxes and packs, they're gambling. So it's people after that quick endorphin rush.
I am sorry, dude, but I have to correct you on that one. It is not loot boxes. It's surprise mechanics.
Oh, fuck that.
You and your wording.
That's not his.
No,
that is not his. That's straight out of EA.
That's straight out of EA. While EA is defending loot boxes right now, and they called it surprise mechanics.
That is literally what they did.
God. But yeah,
verbatim.
Definitely for people who fall into the card gaming, and there are other types, like...
There are subsets within card gaming.
Exactly.
So there is deck building games, which are pretty popular. A really good one right now is Ascension. I am a big fan of that.
PC deck builder.
Exactly. But they suffer on this premise that you and the other players share the central deck and a selection of cards, maybe, and you use resources from within your deck by playing your cards to buy more resources to put into your deck, rinse, spit, repeat, ad nauseum, until the end of the game, whatever that trigger is.
And one of the good things about that is, like, when we play these, is it's definitely a thing of interaction. It's like someone across the table is like, dude, I fucking dibs on that card, I fucking need that.
Oh, dude.
And then you're like, well, you know what? I'm going to dick you over. I have twice as much points. So I'm going to buy that and half of the rest of the board. You guys.
Yeah, that
and
happens.
It's definitely a thing. It's a resource management game, and it's really great.
Yes. And the other type is your competitive card games. These are things like Magic the Gathering, Android Netrunner, which I really want to keep coming back, Yu-Gi-Oh!, where part of the gameplay is facing off against another person.
Okay, gentlemen.
Whoa, we're getting heavy topics now.
No, we're not getting heavy topics. I just want to state two things real fast. Number one, stop bumping the table, Blasphemous. For fuck's sake. And number two, we got about 15 minutes left, so...
Let's switch over to minis?
Let's switch over to minis real quick, and we'll wrap up our podcast on minis. Because I'm not sure if we covered this in a mini episode previously, but there are a few topics I'd like to discuss.
Alright.
Okay, starting out, I love minis at the role-playing table. And when you're playing any game, like, for example, Vampire the Masquerade, is not a mini-based game. It's all theater of the mind.
Theater.
And it's really easy.
Teatro.
It's really easy to do that. Theatre of the mind.
In Gaba.
Because we live in the modern world. So when you say, oh, the guy dives behind the car and he's about 20 feet away, you can easily visualize that because, well, every one of us sees a car at least 20 feet away almost on a daily basis. Or, you know, he's in the third story room. Well, all houses right now are built by pretty much the same cookie box standards. So you can be, third story up. He's about 30 feet, give or take a few feet. Easy breezy.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to visualize a brick building, whereas in a far future game or a fantasy game, we don't live in that environment. So when somebody says, oh, he's third story up, you're like, well, okay, are they using some sort of weird architecture in this far future world? Are the windows tiny little portholes?
Yeah, like what do you... So a good way to go about that would be, so up 3 windows from the ground, you see a figure who is doing blah blah blah, possibly aiming at you with a weapon of some kind. Let's use that for an
He's
argument.
smoking a spliff.
Yeah, we'll say he's doing that. And then, you notice that these windows are blah-blah, and they are about blah-blah apart.
What I want to get into, though, is 2 things. First, I love hex maps more than square maps. Hex maps are much more reliable for gauging distance, although they really don't give you much in the way of figuring out that distance in most of the splat books and whatnot.
Yeah, that's the tricky part, but at the same time, it does feel a little bit more natural to be moving in 6 directions rather than 8.
True. Well, it's like when you cast a spell, and your wizard casts a spell that's a line of fire, and you're using a hex map, the line is straight. Predominantly a straight line. There's a little bit of wiggle room, but not very much. Whereas on a hex or a square map, it's like 1 forward, 2 to the side, 1 forward, 2 to the side, 1 forward. It's like zigzagging all over the place. It looks really obscenely bad.
Looks
However, with the Moniker sitting at the table, I think he would agree with this one, even though he hasn't really done much in the way of role-playing yet. So, first thoughts here, because you probably haven't done it yet.
Okay.
How would you feel about using templates like out of Warhammer Fantasy or Warhammer 40k, using those templates and the measuring sticks to gauge distance while playing games like Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah, sure. I think that's a totally viable way of going about it.
Wouldn't it look a lot cooler to place a template over your character's head, center it up, and be like, okay, all the guys underneath the green template are now hit by my ray of frost?
Yeah, I'd like that.
Well, there's a lot of people who make those third-party, or people just steal them straight from Warhammer. You go buy the Warhammer one, you're like, all right, this fits, this size. They mark it out with the grid pattern, all that, and they're like, this is the thing.
You know what's funny is that in 8th edition, they actually took out a lot of those templates and stuff, and a lot of players were really unhappy about it. So, 8th edition, its whole thing was to get as many new players in, and it worked. Yeah. So, of course there's things people like about it, even the old school 40k guys, but there's little things they don't like because, it just simplified it a lot. But, yeah, I think to see that at a role-playing table, that'd be really freaking sweet.
I think it would help out with players, especially even though you're playing on a grid map, you got your squares. It's a lot easier, I think, and more realistic if you go, anybody underneath this template is hit, rather than anybody in these squares is hit. You look at the squares and you're like, why is this guy not hit?
Yeah, or it's like, you say everyone within 25 feet or something. Well,
big circle.
Yeah, big circle. It's like, Well, on that little square grid, I mean, those squares could be however many feet, you know what I mean? It's like, that could just be hitting one square, or that could be hitting, the whole damn table. So.
Yeah. One thing, though, with minis, like, I love using them for battles. It's easier to track people's positions. Massive multi-battles is where it becomes really useful. My big issue is when you go from a 2D trying to represent 3D, like, oh, well, my character turns into a gust of wind and I start to fly. I'm a wind elemental. Now it's like, fuck.
You just pull out a bottle cap here or a dice box and set it on.
The
Set my character on it.
I think the problem that he's trying to elaborate on, though, is not the fact that you can prop the person up on like a post. I know a lot of GMs have like little sticks and stuff, or
they sell stands legit from WizKids, the guys who make a lot of the D&D minis now.
Yeah.
I think Reaper had some for a while, but I rarely see them. Where you can do that, and they can go, a couple inches up and what have you, and they're stable. But now you've got this thing on the bottom that you've got to move around. If they're like over other characters, you've got to like adjust the minis there. But not even that. When you have like Warhammer, you guys have this, where you have buildings or other features that you have a big thing there for. Now try putting your mini on that.
There's always, they call it wobbly mini syndrome, so you have to work with that a little bit. But a lot of the terrain, it has room for your miniatures to stand on, and like, say I want to move one of my boys to a second level, he's got a move characteristic of 5 inches. So you measure the distance from the ground up to the second floor, and if it's within 5 inches, or if you advance, and get however many, up to 6 inches additionally to go up there, then that says, okay, they can climb up there. Because usually, at least in 40K's case, most of the cities and shit are bombed out anyway. So it's not like, they're just going to take the stairs or the elevator up there. They have to find a way to actually climb up there. So
yeah.
Well, I think part of what he's trying to elaborate on, though, is if a guy is flying, say he goes 30 feet up, that's 3 squares high. So if a person is casting a spell at the person who's flying, do they also have to measure out, like, with little cubes? Like, 1 cube forward, 2 cubes up, 1 cube forward, 2 cubes up? Do they have to, like... I think that's why measuring sticks and templates would be a vastly superior form in D&D that has not been completely adopted yet. I think it would be vastly superior, because then you just pull out a little measuring stick, say a 6-inch one, and say, my spell has a range of 30 feet, that's 6 inches, put it over your character's head or near their hands, and then aim with your little stick and say, can I hit the guy? Is he within range? And if the end of the stick touches both minis, boom, he's in range.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I've used that. What was it? Star Wars... It's a tabletop...
Armada.
No, not Armada, but the other one.
X-Wing.
X-Wing, yeah.
Well, they both run off the same principle, and I love those games. No one wants to play with me, though.
It looks
Don't tempt me. I will tell my roommates, and they will play with you.
I just took my Armada stuff apart, and it's in like 4 different boxes. I have my Star Destroyer up there because it's beautiful.
Carrying on. But it has these templates, and these templates are the core mechanic of the game. I want to turn my ship to the left. It's going to follow this template. Dink. And you drop it down at the end of the things while all the bases have little notches for it.
Well, it's even like in RTSs, sorry for the clap, like Age of Empires or Age of Mythology and stuff like that. Like, if you have, say, like your...
6 movement, we'll say, right?
It's just click and tell them where to go. But, like, say you have some trebuchets. You have, like, a line of trebuchets or onagers, and you want to, not like your opponent's city walls. They have, the red area and the green area. If it's in the red, that means it's out of range. If it's in the green, you're within range and you can hit it. Same thing with like an Age of Mythology, like if you had like a god power, like say you wanted to cast an eclipse, so make it so all of your enemies' mythological units suffer greatly to both their attack and defense. Well, you're going to have a
targeting circle.
Yeah, you're going to have a targeting circle, and like video games going far back have been using templates, so
mythologies is not new.
Yeah, no, that came out like what, 2005.
The precursor to almost every fucking game out there now, Dungeons and Dragons, started as a war game, so it doesn't seem that far fetched to go back to the basics. And go back to what, war games used back then, with the little pushers that they had.
Yeah, trying to find those pushers is a pain. Remember, we made one with an extendable stick
little pushers
and
like
a
you
zip tie.
In like the old World War II movies.
Yeah.
We'll move the men over here.
Yeah. Well, just like use little pushers to move your minis around, that helps out. I think using measuring sticks of various sizes for your spellcasters would be great.
Yeah.
Templates for blast radiuses, not just for spellcasters, but like you were just mentioning, trebuchets.
Yeah.
You know, there should be a green zone where, you pull out a stick and says, my trebuchet has a range maximum of this, and then there's like a little line pointed on it that says minimum of this, so everything within that is the green zone.
Unless you get yourself a werewolf, in which case you're not going to need a little 6-inch thing, you're going to need a full yardstick.
So, fun thing, people are trying to address this issue with those modern ones. We've all seen it. Our listeners have all seen it. They take TVs and implant them into their gaming table, right? So now they have their map. So from the controls, a lot of the programs people have that run a lot of the stuff, like to make the enemy units pop up in the screen, not to have minis on the deal.
Tabletop Simulator and Roll20 are really good for this.
Exactly. And they have people who do this on those TVs they embed. And it's like, all right, cool. So you're going and the mouse appears and click on the spot where the player is. They're like, you have a thing of 30 feet, and they just go and click on the tab, 30-foot radius or line or cone.
Yeah.
And it pops up on the map like that, and they can move it around, what have you. That stuff's cool, but to do it IRL with physical accoutrements, I think that would be really fun too, because I'm definitely old school. I like having the minis. You guys remember playing with me.
Yeah.
I would have the minis, and then the map drawn out. And I still have to erase one of the maps. I owe you a new map
I think
board.
that going on that topic real quick as a quick sidebar is going old school is better, in my opinion, because you have that tangible physical item on the table. If Kazurkan shows up and he brought a mini that he's buffed the crap off of the edges, he's taken his file to it, he's made it all pretty, he's put the undercoat on there, he's painstakingly painted it for 10 hours to get that
thing is going to look
right.
goddamn beautiful, and
It's
I
going to
want
look
to
goddamn
use it.
beautiful. And to see the GM reach over with one finger and just knock it over and say you've hit 0 hit points, I think that adds a tangible aspect of just, ouch, because the GM is touching something you personally made for that game. And when the GM or any other player just picks it up, it's physically a part of you. It's your creation at that point. And to see somebody else just reach over and touch it.
I've got a perfect story about that. And also going on that subject, because yesterday I played a game with Sparta and one of his friends. It was a 2-on-1. It was me and my evil sons with... God, I feel bad if I forget his name. He's a nice dude. But he was playing Slaneshi Demons, and Sparta going with his Blood Angels. And I got the custom boosted Blasta. I've spent maybe 2 months on this thing, making sure it looks rusty and realistic. Like, this thing has just been sitting out in all weather, and they just didn't care about it until it was time to rev up the engine. And seeing the armies all there gathered on the table with all the terrain and stuff, that is just the most satisfying thing, because it's like all that hard work and you put in with painting and, making sure that all the pieces fit and,
Blood, sweat, tears, and pain.
Yeah, it all comes
Lots
together
of
and it
blood.
feels great.
Lots of blood.
But then when Colin says knocking it over, I get maybe one shot off with this thing that I worked for months on, and then it just gets blown to smithereens by Space Marines, and I forget I'm not at RLGS, and so I'm just like, fuck that, right in the middle of the Games Workshop, and everyone just kind of looks at me, I'm like, oh yeah. Because I have to take it off the table after I spend all this time on it.
Yeah, I believe with the physical aspect of doing it more old school than with technology, there's that physical aspect, there's that connection that players have to the stuff on the table. And if it's all digital and being moved around digital, and something gets deleted, oh shit, well, I'll just grab I'll just grab a token off of a generator real quick and just reinsert that.
Yeah, especially like if I got, like a war boss and I put a lot of work into him, and looks like he's about to be done in by a Space Marine captain, I'm like going, what can I spend some command points on to keep him alive?
And another fun
I put work
thing,
into this, damn it.
because you know this from me in my campaign, and you've seen me spend days painting at my table.
Yeah.
Can I say, your campaign has taught me one thing, the importance of Occam's razor.
Yeah?
Yep.
I stole that puzzle from online.
Yeah.
But anyways, another cool thing is when you have everyone in the group has their mini, right?
Yeah.
You put them all together, say they're sitting down at a table in a tavern. It gives you a sense, more realism. For me, it enthralls me into the games. Like, I set up all the painted minis for our group and took a picture of it, which I'm going to show you guys at the next game session. I was just like, these are your characters, and I put like a background piece behind them and set my camera up right, messed with lighting in the house.
Yeah.
And I took this epic photo of the minis and being like, this is
The
straight up...
conquering heroes, cresting the hilltop.
Oh, it was more like the idiot standing in a bar. But anyways, I want to do one when I finished all the campsite stuff of them sitting around in camp.
I like that.
But that's the thing is, the physical, tangible bit that they are, definitely can more enthrall you into the game. Even though I'm the one who painted all these minis, except for yours because I had to buy it and it was already painted. Miniatures, I'm very pro miniature. Even if you have to have tokens to represent your bad guys, because I did the thing of buying all the skeletons I needed for a dungeon, and I painted them and painstakingly clear-coated them and everything, and they went through the skeletons in about 5 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, it does suck to be a GM when you put out a miniature and I put all this work into it, it sucks. Pat, done. That's why you don't paint skeletons. You just put out little
pennies.
Buy the little beads.
No, you hit them with, for skeletons, it's really easy. You hit them with a black undercoat, and then do a white dry brush over them, and you're done.
Yeah.
Skeletons are super easy.
Well, there were armor and stuff, but beside the point,
Imagine if you will. Okay, so you spend a week making a dungeon on a TV set that's embedded in the table, and your characters go through the dungeon, and it takes like a couple of hours. Okay, that they're going to be like, oh, this looks cool and everything, but how much more impressed do you think they would be if you set up a game table dungeon?
Yeah.
Like you see online, with these people that are super dungeons. You spend a week setting up a dungeon, even not near half as cool as one of those. How much do you think your players will come in and be like, holy shit?
Or take it seriously where the lights actually work in the dungeon.
There are kits galore and 3D printing schema that you can do. That are modular systems, so you can just build a whole bunch of tiles and then slap them together, and all of a sudden you have a full 3D immersive dungeon. And the players walk in, they see that on the table, and even if it's shrouded up and covered up with little paper squares just to block their vision of rooms that they haven't been in, holy tits.
Yeah.
It just blows their goddamn mind, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful sight.
For me, the big problem with those is I find them to be limiting just because my drawings of dungeons vary greatly. But for me, I'm working on something. It's going to be a hex pattern.
Don't pay attention. It looks like a stick figure.
This is my first time drawing. Please be nice.
I'm working on something. I've been designing it. It's really labor intensive and going to be expensive. Little hexagonal posts, right? They're going to be about 8 inches, and rig them all up so they've got gears on one side, little gears on 3 of the sides, and on the other 3 sides they've just got the
receivers.
Yeah, the receivers. So you can go on there, and I'll try and make this up with a program where you basically hit buttons and say I need a full computer. And so you're going to be like, all right, I want this one to raise up to its full height, which is twice double a mini size. And you're like, but I want to make it taller, so the 6 of them around it are going to go up. Or maybe I just don't want that, so it disengages. So now you've got this mobile field. Cool. But it's going to be way too expensive, and it's a pipe dream, I know. But if I can get access to a 3D printer and all the electronics, this will be the most interactive physical table piece.
You're talking making a full 3D hex map with vertical pillars to actually make that a thing. That is gorgeous. I want to see this.
I can show you the designs next week because they're at work.
Okay, gentlemen, it's time for final thoughts.
Okay, so we've got 2 final thoughts sections. We've got the gaming and psychology.
Gaming and psychology.
And we've got the minis discussion.
Yeah. Or I can marry the two together because they're really interchangeable. They come close.
Because
miniature gaming, it does appeal to some people, and other people like theater of the mind.
I think, at least what I've seen from all the painting, because I follow a lot of painters, I think painting miniatures are a great way to blend kind of gamer mindset, because you'll have some people who go with a real grim dark and they'll paint their miniatures real kind of gritty looking, real dirty, like they've actually been out crawling through mud and shit. Then you've got the people who are very polished, they like their stuff to look very clean, even if it's a more kind of rough and tumble group like orcs or tyranids, But
they're gonna look goddamn amazing!
Yeah, or you have the people who have been in this hobby longer than most of us have been alive, and their stuff looks like tiny miniature little sculptures, or people who get into the I forget I think it's called OSL, but it's outsourced lighting or something like that. So they'll be holding up a glowing sword, and then you can see the light painted on them like it's reflecting, So it's just all about what appeals to them, what kind of
what's their style?
Yeah, what appeals to them and what their style is. It's almost kind of I guess you could say cartooning in a way, there's even some people who have the really just garish, outlandish colors that you would never even think of, but when it comes together, it looks really freaking cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of partial to purple.
Purple's great. It's the sneakiest color.
For my thoughts, when it comes to the genres bit, there's a flavor for everybody. Even if you have to combine flavors, there's systems that will cover everything, systems that specify one thing. So your flavor's out there. If you really want to get into it, just keep searching for that flavor. On the miniatures thing, I'm pro mini. I love painting minis. I've had to take a break from it because of life.
And
I'm looking to get back into it. Money, not so much. That's been fixed. But
Nice.
I strongly suggest people go out, find a mini, 3D print a mini. Don't buy a 3D printer just to make a mini.
Or go to Hero Forge.
Hero Forge, we're not sponsored, but we love them.
We love them. Sponsor us, please.
Oh God, yes, please sponsor us. Old man dying in corner.
No, that was just so much awesome from thinking of Hero Forge. It just
Just couldn't
His heart
be contained.
Holy shit.
yeah, my heart couldn't contain it, so it just had to
3 sizes too small.
exactly. Sorry, it was just mentioning Hero Forge. It made my chest expand rapidly.
If Saber Forge would please sponsor us as well.
There's a lot of things that we want, but that's neither here nor there.
So, Goblin?
Wait, do we got everybody's final thoughts wrapped
Nope,
up?
I still gotta do mine.
Well, do yours.
Final thoughts. Don't be afraid to experiment with genres and with the players that you play them with. Because I can play, I've mentioned Deep Rock Galactic before. I can play Deep Rock Galactic with a couple of friends. They're really into it. They're just kind of in it for the corny dwarf jokes in their various forms and just, a little bit of the first-person shooter horror riot shooting. And I can play that same game with a different group of people, and all of a sudden we're like this tactical squad, full deep immersion RP. It's like, I'm the digger, I like to burn things, dig things, and that's it. Right? Or, this, that, and the other thing. So, it feels very different playing a game with certain groups as playing that same game with other people. And that can affect how you approach the genres too. So don't be afraid to try things several times. And as for miniatures, I like both having miniatures and I like Theater of the Mind if it's done right. Goblin was very good at Theater of the Mind, so us playing Vampire
Yeah, it was great.
a full experience, even though we never ever had minis for that game at all.
Didn't need them.
Didn't need them.
If I say you guys are on a freeway, you know you guys are on a freeway. You can visualize that.
Exactly.
How many lanes?
Yeah.
Which
4.
direction?
4 northbound, 3 southbound.
See? And all of a sudden we now have this picture of this weird 7-lane highway. But,
Well, one's for HOV.
you know what? That makes sense.
Each lane alternates.
Merging sucks.
That center lane just alternates between north and southbound at random intervals.
There's like a turn lane in an 8-lane freeway.
It's the world of darkness. It was Pentex that made it.
Minis are fun, but they also encourage a very tactical sort of mindset in gaming. And if the game that you're playing does not really have that in mind, your GM better be damn good at improv and figuring out rules on the fly, or you're going to run into problems that are really weird to deal with if you do it that way.
Alright, to gaming and psychology, like you guys said, there's a lot of flavors out there for everybody, and I hate to say from personal experience, but from personal experience,
Dun dun dun!
dun dun da, I burned out on shooters, but I found by experimentation that I really like survival games. It's going to fill that void. So over time, you might find there's a change in what you like or dislike. And even if it's something that you don't really click with right off the bat, if you see it on sale, pick it up. You might be surprised.
Yeah, sales are a wonderful thing.
Sales are a wonderful thing, and if everybody else seems to be playing a game that's popular and you're like, I don't see why it's popular, well, just pick
Try
it up. Yeah, pick it up on a discount, try it, and if you don't like it,
Borrow it from your buddy.
you're only out $10.
Or less.
Or less. But I spent some money on Ark Survival Evolved, and I found that I really like survival games, and my library of those has grown exponentially over the last few years.
Goblin, just given your chaotic evil mindset, I really want to encourage you to play Space Station 13 if you haven't already.
Well, I'm downloading one right now, actually, while we're recording, and I plan on going in later and making my meat throne, because apparently you can enslave and capture and kill all the NPCs in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm planning on making the Empire of Awesome, where I'm the only one with green skin ruling over all the pink skins.
Yep, that sounds like you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
My
All
throne
right.
of meat. And on minis, the only thing I have to say, because most people who play with minis have already gone through kind of like the basic precursor stuff, That they've look up painting guides. There's plenty of those online or at your local gaming stores. There's always people there who have experience with miniatures. The only thing I have to say about that is if you hire someone to paint your mini for you,
Like me.
Or me.
make sure that they have a catalog of minis that they can show you beforehand. Because I've had to redo somebody's mini. It took me 13 hours. I had to peel all the paint off and just start from scratch. And they already paid somebody else like $20 to paint their mini. And it looked like a Fiverr job. It was just... The character came out looking like a turd with a sword. And, the customer was, like, totally unhappy with it. I'm like... And this is back when I was running the shop. So I was, like, kind of being the face of the shop. And I said, look, I'll repaint it for you, no charge. Just something to do when I'm at home.
Yeah.
I repainted it, gave it to him. He tipped me, I think it was a hamburger and some fries. Because I told him, I'm not charging you any money for this. You already paid somebody. It's wrong to pay $50 to get your mini done twice. So the only thing I can say is if you pay somebody, make sure you see a catalog. Like you would check out a real artist. If you're going to have a real artist make you like a web page background or some shit, check their portfolio first. If some dude says, oh, I can paint minis.
Let's see your work then.
Well, let's see your work then.
That's the only reason I have an Instagram. I just use it to showcase my shit.
Yeah, I've seen it happen more
and
than
that's
once.
a valid option.
Yeah.
That's a perfectly valid option.
I kind of want to get one of those light boxes that I can put, little background things in, and then just do all my minis and just make a portfolio.
There you go.
That'd be great. That's the only thing I can add to minis, because anything else you need to know is already out there. You want to know how to paint minis? Games Workshop has a great catalog on tutorials. YouTube has a great catalog on tutorials. D&D Minis and Dungeon Magazine have great tutorials, so there's nothing I can add to that they haven't already done.
Or you can do like I did, get a bunch of minis on the cheap and just trial and error, find your style.
Yeah.
That's how I started. Actually, if you're interested in starting painting your own minis, start with the cheap and easy ones. I started with Space Marines. Those are pretty much the easiest things to paint other than a slat of wood.
Or you can totally do one of the things I tried to do. Get one of those board games with a bunch of minis, the Magic the Gathering ones, or hell, go buy a bunch of toy soldiers from the dollar store.
Dungeon
we
Explorer.
all know those two.
Dungeon Explorer is a really good set for that.
And you just get a bunch of minis and get paints. Paint is expensive, but get the paint you want to use for all your stuff, and then just find your style.
Or you can go and buy some Funko Pop figures and paint over those, because the paint jobs on those things is shit anyways.
Yeah, I don't like buying trash.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
If you're gonna do it, make a project of it.
Yeah, the amount of people, because they released some 40K pop figures, and the amount of professional painters who said, alright, I'm going to do this right, and then posted it, it's
a big number.
Yeah, it makes me very happy, and the paint jobs are like, holy shit, how come it didn't come in the box like this?
Because it's made up the cheap.
Exactly.
Alright, we've hit our time, we've had our final thoughts.
Yep.
Anything final? One?
Game-Goblin, signing off. See you next week.
The Moniker, signing off by...
What, you're not going to do your orc voice?
I can't think of anything good to say.
Kazurkan, back to this, guys.
Darth Blasphemous, I shall return. Do not disappoint me again.
No promises. Thin your paints, otherwise you have cognitive dissonance.
Hey, come on. Heavy.